The rain came down in sheets that Tuesday afternoon, a cold, gray curtain over the sleepy town of Willow Creek. It battered the windshield of Mia Harper's beat-up Toyota Corolla as she squinted through the blur, her wipers struggling to keep up. She was 23, with dark hair pulled into a messy bun and hazel eyes that carried a quiet determination. Her phone buzzed on the passenger seat, the delivery app flashing. Order number 472, Margaret Ellis, 87 Maple Lane. Hot meal, ASAP. Mia sighed, her breath fogging briefly in the chilly car. She didn't love this gig, delivering food for a local nonprofit, but it paid the bills, and she'd always had a soft spot for the elderly folks she served. 87 Maple Lane was at the edge of town, a crumbling Victorian house with peeling paint and a sagging porch. The windows glowed faintly through the storm, like the house was holding its breath. Mia grabbed the insulated bag, dashed through the rain, and knocked. No answer. She knocked again, harder, her sneakers squelching in a puddle. Finally, the door creaked open, and there stood Margaret Ellis. She was tiny, barely 5 feet tall, with a halo of white hair and eyes so blue they seemed to pierce through the gloom. Her hands trembled as she clutched a shawl around her shoulders, and her voice was soft, almost lost in the wind. "Oh, you're here. Come in, come in. Don't stand out there getting soaked." Mia hesitated. She wasn't supposed to go inside. Drop the food, smile, leave. That was the rule. But Margaret's eyes had a pull, a quiet pleading that Mia couldn't ignore. She stepped in, the bag warm against her hip, and the door clicked shut behind her. The house smelled of old wood and lavender, with a hint of something sweeter, like cookies long since baked. The living room was a time capsule. Faded floral wallpaper, a ticking grandfather clock, and a worn armchair by a fireplace that hadn't seen a flame in years. Margaret shuffled to the kitchen, gesturing for Mia to follow. "Set it on the table, dear. Would you, would you stay a moment, just to chat?" Mia glanced at her phone. She had 2 more deliveries waiting, but the rain was relentless, and Margaret's voice had a tremble that tugged at her chest. "Sure," she said, sliding the meal onto the table, a foil container of roast chicken, mashed potatoes, and green beans. Just for a minute, Margaret smiled, a small, fragile thing, and sank into a chair. "You're kind. Not many are these days." She unwrapped the meal with shaky fingers, and Mia noticed her nails were painted a faint pink, chipped but deliberate. "I don't get many visitors. My son, he's far away. Too busy, I suppose." Mia sat across from her, the wooden chair creaking. "Where's he at?" "California," Margaret said, her gaze drifting to a framed photo on the wall, a young man with her blue eyes laughing on a beach. "He used to call it every Sunday. Now it's once a month if I'm lucky." She poked at the potatoes with a plastic fork, then looked up. "What about you? Got family?" Mia shifted, the question prickling. "Just my mom. She's in a care home. Dementia. Doesn't really know me anymore." She didn't know why she said it. Maybe it was the rain, or Margaret's eyes, or the way the house felt like it was listening. Margaret's face softened. "I'm sorry, dear. That's a heavy thing to carry." Mia shrugged, brushing it off like she always did. "It's fine, I manage." They talked for 20 minutes, longer than Mia meant to stay. Margaret told her about her husband, George, who'd died 10 years back, and how he'd built the bookshelf in the corner with his own hands. Mia shared snippets of her life, her art degree she couldn't use, the waitressing job she'd quit, the way she sometimes sketched her mom's face from memory to keep her alive in her mind. When Mia finally stood to leave, Margaret pressed a dollar bill into her hand. "For your trouble," she said, and Mia didn't have the heart to refuse. Driving away, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that she'd left something behind. Not the food, but something deeper. Margaret's loneliness had seeped into her, a quiet ache that lingered all night. The next day, the rain had stopped, but the sky stayed gray. Mia's phone buzzed with another order for 87 Maple Lane. She didn't hesitate this time, just grabbed the bag and drove. Margaret was waiting at the door, her shawl swapped for a pale blue cardigan. "You again," she said, her smile brighter. "Come in." It became a pattern. Every day that week, Mia delivered to Margaret. Chicken pot pie on Wednesday, meatloaf on Thursday, soup on Friday. Each time she stayed longer. They'd sit at the kitchen table, the meals growing cold as Margaret spun stories of her past, the dances she'd gone to in the 60s, the way George proposed under a willow tree, the miscarriage she'd never told anyone about until now. Mia listened, her sketchbook forgotten in her bag, her heart cracking open a little more each day. By Saturday, Mia was bringing her own coffee, settling in like it was routine. Margaret noticed the sketchbook peeking out of her bag and asked to see it. Reluctantly, Mia flipped it open. Pages of her mom's face, soft pencil lines capturing a smile that didn't exist anymore. Margaret traced a finger over one, her eyes misty. "She's beautiful. You've got a gift." Mia swallowed hard. "Thanks. I don't draw much anymore. Just her." "You should," Margaret said firmly. "It's how you hold on." That night, Mia stayed until the stars came out, the two of them laughing over burnt toast Margaret insisted on making. When she left, Margaret hugged her, a frail, fierce embrace that smelled of lavender. "You're a blessing, Mia," she whispered. And Mia drove home with tears in her eyes, not sure why. Sunday, the order didn't come. Mia checked her phone all morning, refreshing the app, but nothing. By noon, she couldn't stand it. She threw on her jacket, grabbed a leftover muffin from her counter, and drove to 87 Maple Lane uninvited. The house looked the same, but the windows were dark. She knocked, her stomach twisting. No answer. She knocked again, louder, then tried the knob. It turned. "Margaret!" she called, stepping inside. The air was still, the clock's tick louder than ever. The kitchen was empty, the table bare. Panic clawed at her chest as she climbed the stairs, her footsteps echoing. In the bedroom, she found Margaret's cardigan draped over a chair, a pair of slippers by the bed, but no Margaret. Downstairs, a note sat on the mantel, her name in shaky handwriting. Mia. She tore it open, her hands trembling. "Dear Mia, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Don't be scared. It's what I wanted. The cancer came back last year, and I didn't tell anyone. I've been holding on for a while, but this week with you, it was enough. You gave me something to look forward to, something to smile about. I'm leaving you the house, not much, but it's yours. Sell it, keep it, whatever you need. And the box under the bed, open it when you're ready. You're stronger than you know. Thank you for being my friend. Love, Margaret." Monday morning, Mia returned. She had to see it through. Under the bed, she found the box. Wooden, carved with flowers, the latch stiff with age. Inside was a stack of letters, yellowed and tied with a ribbon, and a small velvet pouch. The letters were from George to Margaret, written during his time in Vietnam. Love letters, promises of a future, words that had kept her going through decades of loss. At the bottom was a photo. Margaret, young and radiant, holding a baby that never made it past 6 months. The pouch held a locket, gold and worn, with a curl of dark hair inside. Margaret's maybe, or the baby's. Mia clutched it, her chest aching. She didn't know what to do with the house. Sell it, live in it, burn it down. But the box she'd keep. It was a piece of Margaret, a piece of herself she hadn't known she'd lost. A week later, the secret came out. The nonprofit called asking why Mia had stopped delivering. She told them about Margaret, and word spread. A lawyer confirmed the will. 87 Maple Lane was hers, along with a small savings account Margaret had squirreled away. The town buzzed with the story. The girl who'd brought food and ended up with a home, a legacy. But Mia didn't care about the buzz. She sat in the kitchen, sketching Margaret's face from memory, those blue eyes, that fragile smile. She drew until her fingers cramped, until the page was alive with the woman who'd changed her. And when she finished, she whispered, "Thank you," to the empty room, knowing somehow Margaret heard her. Mia kept delivering meals after that, her Toyota rattling through Willow Creek with a new purpose. She'd stop by the house sometimes, sit in the armchair, and feel the weight of Margaret's life around her. The locket hung around her neck, a quiet reminder. She started drawing again, really drawing, not just her mom, but the world she'd stopped seeing. And every Sunday she visited her mom's care home, showing her the sketches. Her mom didn't respond, but Mia talked anyway, telling her about Margaret, about the house, about the girl she was becoming. It was enough. So there it is, the story of Mia and Margaret, a week that turned into forever. If it touched you, if it hit that spot deep in your heart, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs it. Stick around too. There's more where this came from. Let's keep these stories alive.